Okay. My Zoom had messed up in the last few days and started sending out tons of meeting appointments that I set for the end of last year. So I had to cancel and delete everything because I have no clue why it was doing it, how it was doing it. So I just deleted everything in Zoom and have to start fresh. I was setting up appointments for people from the city. I'm chairman of a bank in town. So all these, I'm like, sorry, and I don't know how it happened. So anyway, we have this up. I'll start off by doing the attendance, and then we'll jump back over into what we got. Excuse the sweating. I'm like, I did lunch at Mets, got back to the office, like press the elevator because all my classes are on the bottom of CBI. Get down there, I'm like, hey, what's the room number? I'm like, oh, that's right, it's over here. So I had to run from the basement there with 7 minutes. I made it there from the basement there up to here in 4 minutes. But now I'm getting the effects of it. Okay, that tells you I'm a little bit out of shape for a 55-year-old, right? I've got that round figure that doesn't help with running. Okay, so I'm probably gonna take that off for a bit. And if you're wondering, I normally have one of these on, but not always, but that's from nerve damage where I almost died in the military. So I have some nerve fried. I can't have cold against my neck. Other than that, that's everything else is fine. Lost a little bit of hearing, but I have five kids, so I actually had to count that. So that's not a bad thing to have some hearing loss, right? So we'll jump into the attendance so I can get to that. Prior to COVID, I always just send a sign around sheet and let people sign in, so I didn't have to waste time, but so much for that. Shadhav? J-A-D-H-A-V? No. Okay, then we have Jose? Jose B? Jose C? No, Jose? No. Macarla? I'll be sending a thing out saying, okay, why are you none of you attending? These are the people in the grad program taking the class. I have no clue why this is going on, why they're not. Okay, Ali.
Here.
Okay. Babu. Babu? Nope. Java date available, yeah, whatever. Biros. Birius? Biros?
Here.
Up here, okay. Bruno?
Here.
Gotcha. Burek?
Here.
Zawinski?
Here.
Okay. Darden?
Here.
Dietz?
Here.
Evans?
Here.
Friend? Fuller?
Here.
Gibbons?
Here.
Gregory?
Here.
Heltebrand?
Here.
Hoover?
Here.
Kloss? Magul? Did I pronounce that right? Magul? And you online or here? Oh, back there, okay. Missick? Mitchick? That better, Mitchick? Nikitch? Nietart? Rittenbach? I will tell you, when I was in, and I probably shouldn't, but I can't get out of my mind. I was messing up on a couple names, and I still remember this one professor got so embarrassed. He was teaching basic programming, and it was an Asian name. And it's all because of America. It probably was fine there, but he said, is there a Miss Hu Fuk Yu? and she said it was pronounced right. So I'm not complaining. Just work with me and I'll try and pronounce it right. But you imagine being that professor? Fine. And she goes, yes. And she asked the guy next to her, why are people laughing? He goes, ask her. You know, he's like, no. So Ruiz. No Ruiz? Song is here. That is pronouncing right, correct?
Yeah.
Song. Valerio. Vasilides? White? And you have, Song, you have a question?
Yeah, Levi, he was just here. He wanted me to tell you that he's kind of getting good.
He's going to be in Zoom in a minute?
Like in 2 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha, okay.
He's just heading back home from this call.
So he's not in Greece?
Oh, he's right there. At the force screen. Yeah, right there.
Oh, okay. Oh, he said present. Hildebrand?
I say we're all.
Yeah. And Sarah White. Okay, the ones I have that's not here, Vasilides, Ruiz, Friend, Babu, Makarla, Jose, and Jatav. Okay, I'll screen share in a minute. It's going to disappear for a minute, but then I'll screen share and go over. And move this in a little bit. But I'm going to actually send this out saying, hey, what in the heck is going on with, I did make a selection. Babu, wait, no, that's not doing this. Why is it not doing this one? J, oh, that's because it's down there. It's not showing them there. Carla, there's that one. Jose. I did make a slide. I don't get that. I didn't pick this one. J again. Maybe that one dropped, the J. I got to recheck the update. Okay, so this one I'm going to put a question mark even by. It was an MBA. I wanted to make sure that, because no one from the MBAs have showed up, and I mean, that's just not normal. So I'm sending the email. What is it, 2205, right? And then we're done. I'm just getting this out because I know I'll get interrupted right after class. And I want to give a chance that they give it, 694, that they could actually jump in still while the class is going on. Okay. So now we're into course content. And we'll jump into test one materials. And once I do that, I'll press share screen. I did that. I'll jump into exercise, but actually I'll jump right over into this probably in a minute. Okay. Share, oh, one chat. Oh, friend, okay, I'll mark her present. Something's messing up. And it shows that it's recording, so I'm not sure if everyone else is seeing it fine. It might just be on her end. So let's go over into this. Why is it not doing the share screen like I said? Share screen. There we are. Okay. Now it should be sharing screen. And what I want to do, jump over, and I'm going to just show you in terms of homework. To do homework in this class, you want to click on this. You don't go directly from the other, just have it use the link. That way, when you first go in, it's set up. And after that, how you get in doesn't matter, but that way you know you're using the right connect code to the right class. Because remember, I've taught the same class many, many times. 214, I've never taught it here, but I've taught this many, many places, different universities, total 7 different ones. And I've taught it off and on, and I'm probably like 40 some to 60 times. You don't want to click and connect to me with it and be the wrong course. It doesn't apply. I'm only teaching here, but it doesn't mean it won't accept the connect link. You know what I mean? Then used it, and then you got to try and do help and wait and all that kind of garbage. So you do this, and this is going towards 66 points on the for the course is doing these. 6 points each for these. And what you have is 3 students so far. Fred, Hillebrand, and Neithart have clicked and registered their code so they can actually start doing homework. They haven't started doing it, but they've done that. You all want to be doing that over the weekend. Use your connect code, link in, fair enough. That way you can start doing the homework. So what I'll do is lower this a touch, and there should be a student view. When you do it to start it, you actually click it. Again, when you do this, you want to save it. You do not want to press submit unless you're completely done or you're approaching the deadline. Meaning, okay, turn it in, I'm not quite done, but I know I'll get so many points. And if I have more than, what did the syllabus say? Because I've tried to make it the same as another faculty member so you're not having difference in how they grade. 70%. Mine was 80. So I'm easier now. Look at that, I'm easier. You have to be 70%, not 80% correct. And I'll comply with that. It won't do it for you. I'm warning you now. When you do the homework and submit, if you're 70% correct, if it's 6 points for it, that means you had a 4.2 out of 6, right? 70%. It won't know that. It'll give you 4.2 or 4.3 or 3.7 or whatever that you got correct. And that will go to the grade book. I manually, one by one, after the exam, will do all those chapters and manually update it. Okay? Now, if you were to do it and say you get a 80%, and you want to try it all again to make sure you know it, and you get 2 problems in and said, well, that was really all I cared about, and you submit it, that's going to be a terrible score. It's your highest score that takes it. It won't hurt you. So you could reopen it a 3rd time and say, I'm just going to do this one problem. Fair enough? But if you press submit, most of my questions are algorithmic. I know I said it last time, and yes, I'm being redundant. I'm intentionally saying it again, being redundant. They are algorithmic. When you do the homework, once you open it, it'll randomly give you numbers and make everything still work out. Your numbers, almost guaranteed, will be different than anyone else's. Okay? So I always say, please cheat. I want you to work with each other and try and help each other. The one helping is learning by teaching. The other one's learning by you teaching them. You can't just say the answer is B or it's 27 or anything, because their numbers are going to be different. You actually have to work it out together. Double learning. Hey, I'm in favor. What a shock. I'm in favor of it, right? So that's why I say, on the exam, no, you don't cheat. You won't like what happens. Homework, please cheat. Fair enough? And I'll show you what you do. You should check your work. If you've never done this, is the thing where you can check work. It tells you if you're right or wrong and all that kind of stuff. And then you press save and come back to it another time and reopen it, and everything stays the same. Once you press submit, it grades it. You open it again. All the numbers, 1 through whatever, are all new and all new numbers in there. You get to start from scratch. Fair enough? You understand? I've had people, but I had this, I was just this, is there, no, there actually is nothing I can do. Okay, there isn't. That's the rules of it. It's a computer program, not me. So now these are literally your homework questions. So some of these won't be algorithmic just because how do you change that? It's wording, right? And this is what it says, a more effective way to stop fraud than detection. And when you click in here, you see I pressed in the space, it gives an arrow down. What is a more effective way to stop fraud than detecting it? Auditing for it using Sarbanes-Oxley, which is a law about things, internal controls, or prevention. If you don't know, let's go and say prevention. And instead of going all the way down, at any point you go check my work. Oh, most of the times it lets you check as you go. This one says you have to match all of them. So apparently this one won't let you do one by one. Okay. We'll do all of them and then check. I've never had that happen before. Why is it not going back? Oh, okay. We'll just say prevention. 3 factors push a person to commit fraud: opportunity, pressure, and rationalization. That's known as the fraud triangle. I teach this in forensic accounting, fraud examination. It was analysis done by someone many years ago, and they said that what leads to fraud one thing. Am I in the right thing? Chapter 1. 1 second. I've taught so many courses now. I'm like, wait a second. This is the right one. Internal controls. Yeah, accounting and business. Yeah, okay. A lot of things overlap. This is actually stuff also in my fraud class. Okay. Which is accounting 490 and novel student 214. That's why I had to pause them. I taught this and I had something just like, I'm like, okay, they reuse the things. Okay, so I just had to relay. I'm like, yeah, that's right, it is, you know. So what happens is they show a fraud triangle. Triangle. What it says is that opportunity. Now, a person is given a lot of opportunity to like commit fraud or steal. There's a better chance they're going to do it. An example of that would be, well, I can tell you in a second. Like an example would end up being is, Vince said, I'll be right back. There's an opportunity, right? There's cash laying on the table and I'm not in the room. You see why you don't, just doing that might increase the probability of something happening versus, okay, now let's talk about accounting. And I'm not sure that the money will be there when I'm done. You follow my point? I didn't get the opportunity. Pressure. I have a wife and 5 kids. For some reason, they exert pressure because they want a lot of things. And it costs money a lot of times. Or my time and all that, you follow me? But if you imagine you're working in a place and say you're working, say, 30 hours while going to school and you're raising a child, or you've got medical problems and you need to get prescription drugs, and you follow my point. And something weird, like you wanted to do something like put gas in a car or pay your phone bill, your cell phone bill, and also eat this week. I mean, you're getting ridiculous, right? You can see there'd be some pressure to try and find a way to get money. And it might turn to something unethical. Rationalizing would be this. Let's say you're working at a place. This actually happened to a friend of mine. He was an attorney. He was working at this one firm, which I told him not to work there, but I didn't ever explain why. I just thought he wouldn't do it. He did it. He took the job. So he's working at this one law firm, good attorney, doing tons of work. He was getting a bit frustrated because he was doing a lion's share of the work for like 5 people in the firm. You had the main attorney, another family attorney, him, a non-family and non-relative member, and then you had all these cousins and all that working there, which were getting paid as much or more than him, and he was doing their work too, because they didn't know how to do it. Can you see where someone might rationalize a way to try and steal or get additional things to try and make up for that? You know, it's like, this just isn't right. Okay, and they start rationalizing why, well, yeah, they didn't give me this, but I took it because I deserve it, you know, rationalize. That's the idea of that fraud triangle. And I think I got to know, try and move this to the top. I'm just going to go to the next one. This goes to when we hit a counting equation, but I'm going to jump back. So you see there's different questions. So this one, it says then, beliefs that distinguish right from wrong. If you try and prevent something, does it show right from wrong? No. How about trying to stopping someone from doing something? Does that prevent right from wrong? It doesn't show right from wrong. Fraud triangle, that tells you what factors could contribute to someone doing something wrong. So you're left with ethics, right? Right from wrong. Make sense? You see how sometimes when I teach, I also try and teach how to evaluate and do better on multiple choice. And I'll tell you something, not that I'm proud of it, but I'll be honest with you. I was taking a class, one of the last ones I had to graduate with my master's, specializing in accounting and finance. We had tons of presentations we had to put on. Our group was one of the presenters. So I helped with one of them. But there was a bunch of groups. The teacher always said or threatened that the presentations would be half the exam. And I've been going there for many years. I did undergraduate at the same place. So I knew that, yeah, he said that, but he's never done it. Guess what he did that year? That was half the final exam. If you don't pass that final exam, you don't pass the course, you don't graduate. I did not study one of those things. I knew ours and that's it. So what did I have to do? Teaching you like I did the ethics thing here? I looked at the heading, meaning the sentence describing what each presentation was. While taking the final exam, I guessed what I would have said without researching anything on that title. Then looked at the other one that I'm comparing and contrasting, what I would have said for that one had I researched it or even listened. I pretended to listen, but actually listen. I know you always listen. You're not pretending, right? So I did the comparing and contrasting. I found out later that I had the highest score on that half of the test. Some of it didn't, I just made it all up. This is what I think I would have done. He just liked how I said it. And I'm wondering if that actually was presented, or he's like, he didn't listen either. And like, yeah, but I had the highest score on that. I'm like, I thought I was not going to graduate. Instead, I had a top score in the class. So don't do that. But if it helps, you try it. Right? You found my point? What requires that a whistleblower be paid a percentage of sanctions and mandates recovery of excessive compensation? Requires it. Well, obviously legislation will require it. Well, come on. Why is it not staying up? Okay. You have Dodd-Frank Act, which is legislation. The other things aren't. And Sarbanes-Oxley. So you have Dodd-Frank and Sarbanes-Oxley. Examines whether financial statements are prepared using GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, what that question is. If you catch, I do some things based upon, let's do the homework and learn the thing from the homework. Other times I show you basic aspects of accounting and then we apply it from there. The old school way was always, let me summarize the chapter, which you're still supposed to read. By the way, please stay awake. And then we'll try and apply it, and then we run out of time. So good luck on the exam because we didn't apply it all. Fair enough? That's the old school way. Mine is I learned how people start doing this. I've been teaching enough years that I'm like, okay, let's go to where they're getting points, which is the homework. And then anything missing from what you're supposed to learn for the test and the homework, I'll also point out. And you read the chapter, just make sure you got it, hopefully. That kind of catch the right way that, you know, I learned this over time. The students taught me the right way to do it. Just cut to the chase and come on, where's our points coming in now? So now they're saying GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. It does not ensure absolute accuracy of the statements. What examines it? They give other choices. Internal controls is trying to prevent something. That's a way of doing it. Prevention is also, yeah. The fraud triangle ethics. Dodd-Frank Act, does a law try and do it? No, I'd say auditing would try to examine. Audit has to do with examination. Accounting firms, CPA firms will call it their audit branch or their exam branch. It means the same thing. Then you would have one that's also tax, and then you may also have one that's like consulting and things like that. Procedures set up to protect company property and equipment, ensure reliable accounting, promote efficient, and encourage adherence to policies. So these are procedures set up. So the only thing that looks like a procedure would normally end up being prevention. It's not the triangle that's checking it, but you also could have audit and internal controls, and those should be their internal controls are things. Are they necessarily procedures? No. What I'm trying to show you is how you can try and work through this stuff. And the key is check your work and say, okay, I thought I was right, guessed wrong, but now I can recheck this because that's not it. I'll go back to normal teaching. I'm showing you how to do homework is what I'm doing now. That's my focus. Not the teaching as much, I'm doing some. For those that haven't done any of this. How many here have not used Connect? Now you know why I'm doing it. Okay, almost everyone. There's a couple that have. Regulations aim to stop, so you know it's going to be one of the two laws. Abuse is by saying effective internal controls. And I'll just throw in Sarbanes-Oxley. I put them for both. Check my work. Now it should let you check. Okay, Sarbanes-Oxley is in there, so it's going to be the Dodd-Frank. And all the rest were correct. You see how you do it? Then return. You can go back in then. Since you didn't save, you can go back in and click Dodd-Frank. And oh, is that really right? Because it's some other options. Yep, they're all right. You see how it's relatively easy to know if you're getting 70% correct? You still, once you submit it, should look to say what I got wrong just so you're ready for the test, but it gets you all your points. So we go to the next one. And what this is doing, remember on last class, we talked about the accounting equation. Remember the logic? And we said assets equals liability plus equity. And you could call equity owner's equity, stockholders' equity, shareholders' equity, right? This number has to equal these two. How do you think you'd get that number? Huh? Yeah, add the two numbers together. So 157. Now we have stupid algebra. What do you do? How do you get the two numbers? Yeah, you subtract this and you subtract that number. This, you'll subtract that number. You see where it shows right and wrong? Yeah, I knew it wasn't 3, by the way. Fair enough. Now, you can do save and exit. Submit you don't want to because then it won't do any of the others. So obviously go back and fix that one, but it's doing the different things, assets, so forth. And it's saying beginning, change, and ending. So you could solve this, that's the accounting equation, this one's the accounting equation, then you add them down and you can get that too. You follow my point? These are actually your homework problems, but you'll see 99,166. What I'm gonna do is return to instructor view, return to Blackboard, go back into homework again. Notice I didn't save it. Student assignment view, continue, next. Remember, this was in the 150 some, 157. Now it's 141 for the right answer. You see why I said, please cheat? The numbers changed. I didn't save and exit. It would have been the same numbers. I just exited. Didn't even save my work. It does the same thing. If you exit, don't save your work, it's going to reload new again because you didn't save. To reopen later, save and exit. If you submit, it'll reopen new, brand new again. Now you saw it, it did it. The answer is 157. This is 141,000 instead of 157,000. Now do you see why I went and did what I just did? Now you know what you don't want to do, unless you really love doing it all over until you complete all at once. If you like to do things a lot of times, you go ahead. Okay? So I'm going to return to instructor view. I'm going to look at policies real quick and oh, good. I did unlimited attempts. I know on another one I'm teaching to match. I'm trying to see the same as other faculty. I can set my own, but I try and be consistent. And one of them has only 3 attempts. So another class of mine has only 3 attempts because that's what the other faculty is doing. I just try and make it where it's like, well, I want that. Like, you know. That way I'm easier in this. And, you know, this unlimited I did, you know, but he also was the same. That's what I normally give. But the other faculty, one thing always, she gives only 3 and you follow my point? I just try and be consistent. Okay. So does everyone feel comfortable? You have the Connect code or whatever when you buy the book or ebook or whatnot. You come here and click. Once you click on the black spot, which is, that all comes from course content. Once you click on course content, which I'll do that again, test 1 material, you could click any of the black ones. It doesn't matter because it's just starting it. But you click on that. For me, because I'm already registered, it's already linked. It will be linked for you, but what it's going to do is a black screen saying put in your registration code and put in your name. Do me a favor. It's always nice that you actually put in your proper name. Now it normally links and still puts gradebook, but I still remember one person, I can't remember what they did. I'll just say Sue, but it was a male. And I think they did Sue. I'm like, what in the heck were they doing? So who in the heck is Sue? You know, when you, let's use your name. Okay. I've had a lot of weird things happen, so I'm like, I want a person like, really? You know? Also, see, someone already started. They're like, hey, he's already given answers. I'm going to mark those. I got the first one done, right? Yeah, okay. But you see how it's done. I normally like jumping right into homework things or in exercises, but I'm going to show a little bit of PowerPoint just because we're starting. Importance of accounting, you identify things, you record some, and you communicate. They're just saying, not that I'm going to test you on that. I mean, I'm going to want a little bit more than that, right? Different. But I've done this in 214 and later classes, and I'll sit there and say, if you were at a company and you hired someone, what's the transaction you record on your books? You know what the transaction is? Trick question. Nothing. Did you pay them? Do you have to pay them anything if they haven't done anything yet? No, what you did, if you're doing it free of charge, a lot of them do it on their first day of work, so they start earning, they fill in all their payroll stuff, their healthcare things and all that. So yeah, they have accumulated hours, so eventually you would, but them working the first day, you may not record that till the end of the day or maybe end of the week and say that that's accrued wages. Meaning you pay on Friday, but you hold it a week, right? So it hasn't occurred yet. So now you owe them for, say they start on Wednesday, you owe them 3 days of pay, but you don't pay them yet. Because you're always a week behind. Or let's say you actually do pay on Friday. Okay, you record that, but they also work Saturday. Now you gotta wait, and that's the end of the month. It's 1 day of unpaid wages. So you have wages payable. Fair enough? That's a transaction. Hiring them isn't. There's no monetary debt or expense occurred by that. So that's trying to say also who uses these things, that in-house, out-of-house and all that, and we'll get to that later. Different jobs, so forth, ethics, that was the fraud triangle, which I just went through and already explained. And let me go back. And they're just talking about ethics overall. Sarbanes-Oxley. We always make sure you know some of these. Sarbanes-Oxley is the big one. In one of my classes, it's 3 pages long with all the subcode sections and all that. We're not doing it like that here. Congress passed Sarbanes-Oxley Act, yeah, because it's a federal act, to help stop financial abuses of companies that issue public stock. Meaning, if this is a private company, it doesn't apply. It's only for public companies like Wall Street, right? Sarbanes-Oxley requires documentation, verification of internal controls. Internal measures trying to control and make sure that your financial statements are accurate, that things aren't being stolen and so forth, right? That everything's above board. And that's why it's emphasizing internal controls. Not after the fact, during and before. Failure to comply can lead to penalties and criminal prosecution of executives. So yes, the executives can go to jail, prison for it. In the fraud class, I try and give an example of why you want some internal controls and how you catch things. So I'll tell you one of the easiest things and how to get away. And then also, though, they have easy ways to catch you now. Let's say someone here works at Best Buy. Anyone work at Best Buy? Okay. Let's just make up, and I'll say that Song works at Best Buy and you're his roommate. So what happens is you decide that you guys want laptops. So you get 3 laptops, you go and buy 3 laptops, and he goes beep, 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 the 3 ring up at the register, and he backs off 2. So you pay for 1. Yeah, everyone thinks you're paying for 3. You have your receipt, you take the 3 out, you go back to the apartment, you hand him his laptop, you got yours. The next day you go back and take your laptop back. So you return the laptop you bought. The other 2, you both stole. And you get away with it. Oh, but then they do go look through the thing and realize that, wait a second, there was 2 cancellations, and I don't know if 2 are missing. And we have film, oh yeah, there were 3, you know. Now there's criminal charges against you and you lost your job. You know. You catch the idea about internal controls. 1, tape measure, reconciling the tape measure. The books, the video. Yes, sir.
What if you don't get caught?
Huh?
What if you don't get caught?
What if you don't get caught?
Yeah.
That means their internal controls aren't that good. And they're supposed to catch beforehand, but you were helping him. When they have an inside job, it's kind of harder to catch, right? Because you're trying to help him get away with it. But if you don't get caught, then you can't get in trouble for it. Does that mean it's only wrong when you get caught? No, we're talking ethics here now. Let's put it this way. I used to go and fly Spirit Airlines and fly out. I just looked up just because I was telling someone the story at a family get together. I'd fly out through Spirit Airlines leaving Detroit, and I'd either go to Atlantic City or Vegas, and I would sit there and gamble. But that wasn't because I really wanted to gamble per se. You could argue it was, but mine, I was in a way naive, but not naive at all. I was thinking to myself, since I was teaching advanced statistics, why not chess probabilities and all that, since I had a really good memory. So, okay, now you're talking 3 decks of cards and all that. What the problem is, you see the cards being laid down, I'm just counting and putting them in my head, not trying, but you know, you're not supposed to count cards, but how do you prove it when it's in someone's mind? Yes, sir.
When you're in MP.
When you're what?
When you're in MP, military police.
No, that would have been after.
Okay, no, when you were in MP.
Okay, yes, when I was in, 1982 to 88.
No, like up to it. Was there anything you found illegal, but just gonna report it?
Oh, anything I did illegal?
Yeah.
Speed.
Okay.
I mean, driving a car, not pills necessarily.
I was just wondering.
But I do a lot of accelerants, you know, like coffee and so forth, which you can say they're drugs, but I drink coffee all the time, just today, you follow me, but speeding, but I'm trying to think, is there anything else?
Documentation.
And what's that?
Documentation.
No, I'm known to be an honest guy. I'm one of those weird ones, right? Yeah. I mean, we're talking, even at work, they were, at the law office I worked at, they were floored because I went up and I put some change on this one office manager's desk, the female office manager, not the manager of the attorneys, which could have been male, but happened to be male, could have been female, happened to be a male. But the office manager was a female. She goes, I said, I'm so busy and you had all these closings and all that. I said, I want to get some in the mail. So I actually put it to her. I know we're not supposed to, but here's the money for the change for it instead of just buying the stamp. So like, and you totally go, yeah, I'm not going to steal from you. You know, it's like, I gave them whatever, 40, 80 cents, whatever it was. And she's like, okay, we know other people have done that, but they don't tell. I'm like, no, I'm honest. I know I'm not supposed to, but I don't care. I didn't have time. You want me to keep doing that? And I had to get this out. So, you want to slap my hand? Ow. So I did it. Here's the money. So that was me. So that's better. So now I can't really say, well, I guess there'd be some things illegal, but it wasn't really bad per se because I was authorized to, even though it's breaking the law, because undercover when you're in a bike gang, but not riding with them, but not everything's legal, but didn't mean I did anything technically illegal. I wasn't killing people or selling drugs or any of that stuff. It's just, by being in with the people, you're by association guilty of it too. You know what I mean? But I'm like, I didn't. Now you wonder why they had contracts out on me. Yeah. So just so you know. Okay, then where was I at? Sorry, because you took me off on the tangent there. I'm like, I answer questions unless it goes too far. Oh yeah, Sarbanes Oxley. So yeah, some of those will end up, actually, I let them up where they can actually do time. And corporation is deemed a living, breathing human being that doesn't die, unless you actually close the whole company down and disband it. But technically, it just keeps on living. It's deemed a human being. It can commit a crime, just like the individual can. So the corporation can have to do time in prison. So if you're at the right position in the corporation, you actually could go to prison on behalf of the corporation. Interesting one, huh? Yeah. Like, I don't want that job. I'd rather meet my significant other outside of prison. Dodd-Frank. That's the name of the senators that submitted this bill to become law. And Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Two important provisions. It has down the clawback provision, which means if you get excessive pay and you did wrong things or whatnot, they can take it back out of these executives and get the money back. And they give the whistleblower provision where they can get 10% to 30% of the sanction exceeding $1 million. You have to have, some money involved. But yeah, they get the claw back, meaning it takes it from them, and you get a percentage. Just like if you did this, the whistleblower, and let's say you also notified the IRS, you can also get a percentage from the IRS that they collect from the people, and you get it from the Dodd-Frank Act. You're like, I'm retiring. People have gotten beaucoup millions on that. Kind of helps stop fraud and all that kind of thing, right? If one of the people that catches you that's not in on it, especially, the thing is, it will even people that are in on it, the people that were in on it, turn it, and they still get the money. And they're like, yeah, the law says they get it. It's like, there you go. You're going to teach ethics next, right? No.
Professor,
Yes.
your screen stopped sharing. I can't see the
Thank you.
screen.
I don't know when that does that, so I think I got to go back up to move this down. So I have to see, it says it's sharing, but I will stop share and then I will reshare. It sometimes does that when you go between things. So yeah, do tell me right away. You should be seeing it again, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So with this GAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, remember that was one of the drop downs in the first homework problem that you have assigned. It says financial accounting is governed by concepts and rules known as Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, GAP. GAP aims to make information relevant, reliable, and comparable. Eventually, you'll get tested on different things such as what does it mean to be relevant? What does it mean to be reliable? And what does it mean to be comparable? We follow GAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. Outside the US, they file IFRS, International Financial Reporting System. So it's slightly different. Our focus has to do on reliable. A difference from IFRS would end up being, you bought a building, right? Manufacturing building. You have a building. You paid $1 million for it. You've depreciated it over time. And let's say you've depreciated, meaning in depreciation, we haven't covered that yet. What depreciation means is it's an accounting method of estimating the wasting or wearing away of an asset. Well, a building, as it gets older, we say it depreciates. Its usefulness drops. Doesn't mean the value of it drops, because price of land can go up, but to manufacture and what you need it for is deemed to waste away. And it's a lot easier if you think of a machine. And let's hypothetically say a car. As you drive a car, doesn't it like deteriorate some or break down some, get worse than being brand new? And then you get to do things like brakes and engines and transmissions and tires. You follow my point? It wastes away. We would say it depreciates. And there's different terms for it. Depreciation is a generic overall. Amortization means you're going to do something over time like you might with a bond or something with interest. Depletion would be depleting the natural resources, wasting those away. You know, you have so much oil estimated in the ground, and as you pump it out, you have less. There's different things mean the same thing. So in America, we would take the historical cost, what you paid for the building. If you did major revisions or additions to it, you know, to make it much, much better, last longer, you could increase its value just for those things, but your depreciation also. And then you give a net book value, subtracting the two. And that's what we'd show on the balance sheet. Remember the accounting, asset, liability, equity? That's what we'd say it's worth. Internationally, I said, what are you talking about? You might have bought that 30 years ago. What's it worth today if you sold it? So they get an appraisal on it and says, this is the going value on it right now. So every year they're paying for appraisals, but it does show you a proper value. So I can't argue that's not a good idea. Internationally, they're showing this is what it's worth if you sold everything. But we also have another term besides these that says going concern. If you're a going concern, meaning you're not planning to go into business and you're not planning selling the asset, do you want to pay for an appraisal? Let's put it this way. Who in here owns a car? Okay, closest one. You own a car. Would you want to hire someone to appraise your car every year if you're not going to sell it? No. Thank you. Now you know. Yeah. Internationally, you have to. See the difference? It's a slightly different viewpoint. And when I did that, I still had one person who was from the Middle East. He's like, yeah, but it's so much better if you knew the value. And it's our way is wrong. And I said, I bet you I can get you to understand. I tried that, that didn't work. I did this, I said, do your family, because I knew Middle Eastern people, I said, which would be like Turkey and so forth around I'm talking. I'm not talking Asia part, Middle East, I'm talking, middle. And I said this, I go, does your father own any homes? Yeah, like 4. I said, has he owned them for a while? He goes, yeah. I said, when's the last time you appraised them? Oh, we did this one, like, I think it was a year ago, and the other was like 3 years. What about the other 2? Oh, we haven't appraised those in like 10, 20 years. Why not? Well, we're not going to sell them. I go, thank you. Yeah. Oh, now we got it. Why would he waste his money? You know what I mean? But it wasn't a business, but he understood the difference between IFRS again. GAAP was wrong the whole time until I did that thing with his houses, his dad's houses. He goes, now it makes sense to me. Okay, it still seems wrong, but I see where you could argue, you know what I mean? We're not going to go through back and forth on it. We'll just stay with America there, but I want to let you know the difference. There's some reasons for it. We good? Okay. It also helps when you have people that are international. I don't know that you are, but with international, because then they understand some of those with the differences because they haven't been in U.S. their whole life where everything's U.S. So relevant is information affects decision, meaning if you give information that doesn't affect you at all, then it's not relevant. Whether or not I ever broke the law, question he asked, do you think it's relevant to the exam? Bingo, so guess what? It wouldn't matter. They wouldn't record it in accounting. It's not relevant. Interesting, however, but you follow my point. And I always let a bunch of those for flavor in the course. I'm not gonna say, well, that's not relevant to the class. I'm like, I would if it went on for like 4 or 5 minutes, you know. But a little bit here and there is always good. Reliable information trusted by users. I said we based a building or equipment based upon purchase price, less depreciation. Do you think I can prove what it cost? You bought your car, do you know how much you paid for it? Can you prove it if you had to? What, your parents get it for you? Okay, so yeah, you couldn't, because mom or dad paid for it. Did either you buy your own? Okay, you bought your own. You could figure out what you paid for because it's probably on the title even.
Yeah.
Unless you lied on the back and got them to say it was lower, so you paid less sales tax. I didn't talk about being unethical. All right, you follow my point, right?
Yeah.
So you could prove the dollar amount, which makes it reliable. See, I always pull ethics back into, that's Sarbanes-Oxley, that's trying to be ethical too.
You live in Ohio. You live in Ohio.
I live in Ohio officially, and here's the unique thing, because I always try and be honest. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I was trying to determine where I should file taxes. Now remember, I was IRS CAD, Criminal Investigation Special Agent for the Internal Revenue Service before, in 1988. I've had the top security clearance in the nation before. I'm a co-site coordinator here when we do tax returns. Can't say I don't know the law, right? However, I looked up and my phone told me that I had spent, this was 4 years ago, I think. I had spent 347 nights, I believe, which you know was the majority of the year, at the Marriott Fairview, right by the mall, off of Kearsarge, something like that. You're not required by law to say that your place of residence is a hotel room. You don't have to say you live in a hotel room. It's where you plan on going back when you leave for business. Well, I teach here, but I live back there. So then I'm like, okay, logically, it's with my wife. I looked up the law in Ohio and Michigan, read through the stuff, and it says, wait a second, that they originally say pretty much where do you plan on going back and where do you lay your head at night and whatnot. But once that doesn't apply, then it's contact periods, contact points. Doesn't mean where do I sleep next most often, because that's the second most, not the first. Once the first is gone, remember, you have to know this is tax. And I don't even make my tax people know this. This is so ridiculous, right? I had to look it up, and I teach it. Contact points, I had to go through it. I'm like, I have a place that officially, I own a place in Toledo, duplex, and I own, which is a 2 double bed room with another loft that could be 3 more rooms and a basement. And then I own another house that's in Michigan that I'll eventually plan on flipping, or we just keep it permanently. A little small thing like just shy of 3 acres and 4,032 square feet. Which I had 22 water leaks, so I got it at a great deal, and I'm totally restoring, and it's got the nice 22-foot tall 5 columns in the front. And, yeah, struggling to get by there. We're squeezing in. But with that place in Michigan, how often am I there, and how am I in Toledo, and where do I go? Most of my contact points are going to my P.O. box in Toledo, my duplex in Toledo. I shop in Toledo. My kids go to school over the line in Toledo. It's Toledo. Even though where I spend most of my nights when I'm not here in Michigan. By law, I have to claim Toledo, which means I have to pay 2 1/4 city tax of a place that I don't technically live in, but officially I live in. So yeah, I pay more in tax for it. It eventually helped out me because then it ended up being a failed school system. Now they gave us money to help with the tuition. I'm like, okay. But I went like 2 or 3 years paying, gosh, I don't know, $4,000 or some dollars, more than I really should. But then now I'm getting more than that back, but it just fell that way. I was ticked at first and now I'm smiling. It's like, that's how the law works. So yeah, where's my wife's official residence? Michigan. Fair enough?
Yeah, that was not my question.
What's that?
That wasn't my question. What is it?
Oh, I thought that's what you asked. What'd you ask? Didn't it sound like what he asked?
No, you were talking about the car, and I was just about to talk about like.
I thought you said, where do I live? I live in Ohio.
In Ohio. I lived in Ohio for 6 years, and when I bought a car in Ohio, I never paid the full back. I bought the car with 6,000 when I was 16, and I paid like maybe like 20 bucks.
Oh, gotcha. On the back page and all that stuff, yeah. Oh, gotcha, okay. No, I thought you were trying to say, okay, with me, I thought you said with me living. When you lived, I heard the wrong word. See, military, I did lose some hearing. Okay, so then you have reliability. So if you had the dollar amount on your title to the car, it's historical value. We know that's reliable. If you're international, you appraise the vehicles every year. Give me 3 appraisers. I bet you I get 3 different answers. So is it really reliable if they're going to come up with a different number? No, but is it better than saying, you know, an outdated 20-year building value? Yeah, I can't argue. You follow my point? So it's like, what are you basing the things on? You follow my point? And that's why GAP says we do historical costs, and we base it because of this reason. Comparable information is helpful to contrasting organizations. So if one place has account receivable, meaning someone owes them money, another company has their account receivable, how much is that relative to your overall sales? Meaning how much you do on credit? How many stiff you, that becomes comparable. So they try and have similar things across organizations. That's accounting and your chart of accounts, that kind of thing. We good? I already talked a little about international standards, which I said there, you know, international financial reporting standards. So the conceptual framework, they have the different objectives, quality, characteristics, development, recognition, measurement, whatever. You know, there's a bunch of different ones they try and follow, and we'll hit them as they come across. So the general principles, you have assumptions, which was going concern assumption. I mentioned that one, meaning we don't plan on selling and closing down. If that's the case, then you're probably not as concerned on it being historical value versus appraised value. If you're planning on selling your business at the end of the year, you might want to get appraisals done. You didn't have to forget, but hey, I'm going to sell it. I want to know what it's worth. Not that it was worth this 20 years ago. So it changes things on that. Concepts, guidelines, financial statements. We said balance sheet, income statement. We mentioned statement of cash flow. There's a couple other things, but those are the main 3. And there's specific principles, detailed rules used for reporting business transactions and events. We mentioned already about some things about depreciation, but it could also be the fact, when do you recognize a sale? Say, I agree to sell you my car. We shake it or even draw up the thing. Is that recognizing the sale? If we're cash basis, no, because you didn't pay me anything. If we're accrual basis, yeah, it depends, because did I give you anything yet? And we try and follow a matching principle, match the revenues and expenses. So you can argue no, but some things the answer might be yes, and we'll learn that as we go. Fair enough? So I'm just trying to give you the idea. Now, what if we normally would recognize it, but I think it's highly improbable you're going to be able to come up with the money? Do I record a sale that I don't really think is going to happen? Probably not. So there, you follow. There's things we'll learn. Again, this is day 2. We haven't learned them yet. We're slowly getting you in. So you have the cost principle, matching principle, revenue recognition, and full disclosure. So cost principle, accounting information is based on actual cost. Actual cost is considered objective. What is the actual cost to do something? You think that could be real easy, but sometimes that gets tricky. What was the cost? Well, let's say that I am fixing someone's car, because our family used to own a body shop and all that, and I've helped people on that, and I'm fixing the car. Well, you have my time and labor. If I bill for it, you know what it is, because I billed it. And we're not arguing that I'm trying to cheat the hours and be unethical. Okay, I'm being honest about the hours. Now, I also buy parts. Well, I can see that if the contract says that I get to mark it up, a lot of times automotive parts are marked up 20% or more. So if they buy it versus you providing it, which normally they provide it, because they get the markup on it. But you can also argue that's because it also takes some time to get it, but some of those will actually deliver to the shop. So we're not going there, but you follow. What is the cost? What if me as the shop owner have some parts and I end up throwing some of my parts that I already have into it and I bill you for it? Well, once I bill you, that's a cost, but that could be argument, well, it's cost for 20%, and you don't even know what the original cost was, and you can see where some things, where no cost is. But then just as you're trying to find what the actual cost is, we're not gonna go into all the unique stuff, but just realize sometimes there's gonna be a problem there. We'll assume it's easy for now, because this is day 2. Get intermediate, then we get the fine tune on that. Unless you're not accounting major, then you're worried. Revenue recognition principle. You recognize revenue when the goods or services are provided to customers and an amount expected to be received from the customer. Remember I said I don't believe he's actually going to have the money? Do I really expect to receive it? Even if I did and delivered my car, if I don't really expect to receive the money, no. And you think, well, who would do that? I actually had a conversion van that I sold to a guy. I'll give him a real nice price. It was like $1,100. It was worth more. Trust me, it was worth more. But the guy was kind of lazy. His wife, sweetheart, and they have a child and a child on the way. And the guy had no problem being unemployed, playing video games, smoking cigarettes. He didn't care if he got beer or not. He just wanted to be able to smoke cigarettes and play video games the entire life. I'm like, and she married him and is having a second child with him. I'm like, I felt bad. I didn't really need a car. I sent to him and said, in my, $1,100. And I said, if you're not able to pay me, hey, I understand. Because I'm like, I'm probably never going to see this money. I actually got the money. And it was like, no payments. And like 7 months later, I got the money. Well, 7 months later is when I would report the sale. It's like selling a car. You would probably be able to do it. That guy, I had very slim doubts that I'd ever get paid back. But hey, at least I helped the wife and 2 kids. It's the Christian thing to do. That was what that, so it does happen. Not very often, but I was one that did it. Expense recognition principle, matching principle. Company records its expense incurred to generate the revenue. Expense incurred. Sometimes you have to pay people labor. Let's say you have, make it easy. Lawn care business. You go and have someone go out, cut someone's lawn, blow the grass off the sidewalk, right? Trim, maybe do leaves. You have to pay your people because they don't do that for free for you, right? And then later you eventually send a bill out to the people that you are doing this contract with. That's expense recognition. Full disclosure, you're supposed to disclose everything. The problem is you'll learn later when you get into intermediate, if you go there, and some that, well, there could be an issue on disclosure. I'll tell you what the rule is. You do not have to know it, because that's only if you go in accounting and get to intermediate. If you're being sued, someone's suing the company, I'm the company, someone's suing me, I need to get full disclosure. Well, one of it would be, how much would I owe if I lose? Do you want to disclose how much you owe if you lose, because it's implying you did something wrong? And this is how much did they get. It's kind of hard to negotiate a settlement if you tell that. But if it's reasonably foreseeable and it's expected to occur and you can ascertain the dollar amount, you're supposed to report it on your financial statements to comply with GAAP, and don't dare report it to comply with trying to do well in the lawsuit. So I've had to explain before on that one is, if we can reasonably ascertain the dollar amount, if it's highly probable lose, then we need to report this. But if you don't, we can just say, you may have to just say that there is one going on, we can, or are waiting to determine the results. We can tell heads or tails. You're going to admit that you think you're going to lose, and you're going to lose this much. We think we'll lose $5,000. Okay, you go to settlement. We're offering $1,200 or $1.2 million. Now we want $5 million. That's what it says right here. You expect to pay. Follow my point? You don't have to know any of that, but I'm just saying that's where it has full disclosure. There becomes itchy things later. It makes sense right now, but there are sometimes how do we do this? But otherwise, you just say you're supposed to report everything. Fair enough. That's what you would have to know on day 2. We already talked about going concern. You're not planning on closing up shop. Business entity assumption. The business is accounted for a separate entity from other business entities, including its owner. Each business is its own business. You don't just merge them all together. There's a way where you can account for them together, but you don't merge them all together. Monetary unit assumption, transactions, events are expressed in monetary or money units. Yeah, you put it in dollars. Fair enough? Now, you may think it's funny, that one thing right here, one of my tenants was a CPA. What she did every single day, I would have been drove crazy for it, but she was paid very well for it, and she didn't mind, she liked it. She did foreign currency translation. Every day, all she did was take one financial statement and translate it into different currencies. That's all she did. Now, you think you just take the number and do it, but remember, also, if it's US versus others, then you have to change the stuff between international and GAAP to also make it equate and then translate. But that's all she did. And she ended up buying a house in Ottawa Hills, which is one of the richest areas in Toledo. And again, all she does is change dollar numbers or yen or whatnot, That's it. That's all she does every day. I'd rather be Chong, I make wicked table candles, man. I don't want to be changing things to yen and dollars every day. It's like, okay, there's some things I can do, but that would be too much. Time period assumption. The life of a company can be divided into time periods such as months and years, quarters, so forth, bi-weekly, weekly. They talk about different ways of forming a company. You have partnerships, corporations, so forth, limited liability companies. The easiest way to do it is I like to go through them like this. The easiest one is you want to form a company the easiest way possible, sole proprietorship. What does that mean? I'm me. I'm not even using another name. If I am, I'll contact the state and get a doing business as or an alias, meaning also known as. So my business doesn't have to say Terry Holmes. It could be Holmes Accounting Service, Holmes Lawn Care. That's a sole proprietorship. One owner, Schedule C, really, but you don't have to know that. It's just, there's no really formalities. You're done. Get employees now, you have to do some things with the state and all that and make sure you have proper things for the state. And you go to Erie or the state of Pennsylvania and see about starting a company, and they'll give you all the different rules and how to go about it and what you need to do. It's really easy because they want you to do it. They get taxes from that. Please start a company, Partnership just means two or more people join together. I explained that to my brother. They wanted to open a gym with someone else, and I told him, I don't know that you really want to do that. No, this guy's going to get, they had all the stuff down, bodybuilding, everything else. And I said, Brian, all you have to do for a partnership is, are you willing to let him reach into your pocket, go through your wallet, rifle through it, and put it back in your pocket without you looking? He goes, I'm not doing a partnership. There you go. That's a lot of what a partnership comes down to. You have to have a lot of trust between each other. You can always sue, but the point is it's already too late. Recover spilt milk. How good is that? You follow my point? Doesn't mean that partnerships aren't great. But you have to have the right partner. It's like with me and him, he'd be fine. Him and his buddy, he's not that close. You follow my point. Corporation, I said that's a living, breathing human being. You have shareholders and all that. Normally what happens, it becomes much more paperwork. You have a little paperwork here that you have to do in reporting. Here, there's really none. Partnership agreement, that kind of things. Here, you have to do all these forms with the state, articles of incorporation, when the board meets and all. When I get back only tomorrow morning, I got to look through on one where I helped this person that passed away that's a millionaire. The husband died unexpectedly, and I got to redo the forms, goes down to Columbus in Ohio, so that it says that she's the officer and serves the process agent. So if anyone's going to sue the corporation, they send it to her. So she gets it to the corporate owner herself. But you have all these things you have to do. So she pretty much has to say, I'll be the service the process agent to serve me. You can pick someone else, but you found my point. But there's a lot of paperwork, and they tax them differently than an individual. This is just like your normal tax return, Schedule C. Here, they get taxed, and then when they pass it on, there's another level of taxation. So they have income tax, and then they give dividends, and then they get taxed again, the person receiving the dividend. When you get advanced payments, they have some things where if you're a company and you're getting it from a corporation and you're redistributing, there's ways to offset so it's not a triple tax. But they don't worry about the double, they just like the triple. They'd be willing to accept it, but they put things in there where you can, but it's a bunch of hassle trying to figure out how to avoid the triple tax. Double's bad enough, right? And then if he dies, federally, if you have over 15 million, then there's federal death tax. So they hit you again anyway. Limited liability, just trying to set up things, which is a company or corporation just trying to limit the, enable partnerships, just limit some liability on it, because that's one thing of a corporation. They don't come after you as an individual and try and take your personal assets, they try to take the assets of the corporation. If they sue a sole proprietorship, they go for the proprietor, the owner, all your personal assets, your home, all that stuff. Partnership, that goes after the general partner, but it potentially could go to every partner in their individual too, depending how it's set. Cost benefit analysis. You don't want to spend more money trying to record something than what it's worth. I had to have this conversation at University of Toledo. We're doing some accounting and they couldn't reconcile this one thing. They were off by literally 25 cents. It was driving this one accountant nuts because they always got everything to the penny. They could not figure out where they're off by 25 cents. I go, do an ESP journal entry. ESP, yeah, error someplace. Who cares? Just move on. No, I gotta find it. I'm like, okay, I said, I got a couple questions to ask you. And they go, yeah. And I could have took time to try and find it, but I cut time. And the question is this. How long have you been looking for this? Over 2 hours. How much does the University of Toledo pay you? You don't have to answer this, but how much do they pay you? Has it gone past 25 cents? And their eyes just opened and said, do an error someplace, journal entry, move on. You're costing too much money. You've already cost what, I can't even tell you how many thousands of times what it's worth that you're looking for. Trust me, they'd rather you do an error someplace for a quarter than pay you 3 hours to try and find the quarter. You follow my point? Cost, benefit. I like to explain this also when it comes to the Affordable Care Act, or people call it Obamacare. They said they're going to have a cost benefit formula in there, and everyone was happy about that. And I'm like, I'll be happy about it once I read it. I have a little bit of distrust for anything the government does. I was part of the government. And it's not because I'm like, oh, the conspiracy of the government. No, I'm like, no, think of it this way. The government's good at wars and national disasters for about 3 days. After that, it gets the Salvation Army, and they're better at it than the government is. But we can respond for 3 days. How's that MP? You know what I mean? Beyond that, how much is a toilet seat for the government to buy it? 175 bucks for a toilet seat. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get one for 20 bucks. Why is it 150? You follow my point? A hammer, $75 or $100. I get one for $15. That's the government. Cost benefit, I'm like, really? You're going to do anything cost benefit? Okay, okay, I'm not seeing this one. Well, here's what they do. You get it, if you get hospitalized, you get an operation. Cost is the simple thing. What do you think cost is? If you get an operation, what do you think the cost is? The cost of the what? If you went to a hospital and got an operation, the cost that we're talking about is the cost of the, thank you, perfect answer. And the benefit to get in that operation is the benefit of, logically you would think, if you had the operation, why did you get one? Right, and now that it's done, you're better, right? So you'd think the help or improvement to the person. Yeah, all right, No, the benefit is defined as the expected future tax paying ability of you, meaning how much are you going to pay for taxes the rest of your life after the operation as opposed to before. So if you're retired, how many operations do you think you really deserve under the formula? I can probably think of it real easy, right? How's it going to change your tax paying if you're not working anymore? If you're quadriplegic, how many operations should we give you? I can think of it right now. Politically, they may let some go through, but that's not how the equation works. You follow my point? You don't follow the point. Huh? Benefit, do you understand? The benefit is the benefit to the government receiving taxes in the future. not your health. By you being healthy, how much money will you earn that you're going to pay tax on? That's how they equate it, estimated. Materiality, that's a tricky one. It kind of makes sense. And let me put this. I like to do this one. A $20 bill, is that material to you? Doesn't matter, you just like throw it on the ground. Right, and you're like, well, okay, I would like to have the 20, right? If I was standing here with 20 bucks and Bill Gates was the owner of the building, you think he'd walk here to get the $20? It's not material. You've all had one link. They already computed that it's not worth his time to drop stuff down to pick up a $100 bill based on how much you make per second. He'd lose money reaching down to pick up the 100. You know, doesn't mean he wouldn't do it because it's 100. You follow my point? But they people actually mathematically computed this, and nobody makes a second. So you see materiality. Materiality to you and me is much better than materiality to GM or Google or what, fair enough? We already did this many times. And they're just doing different things, and we're actually going to do transactions next time. So that's as much as I actually wanted to get through. So we are good for today. And screen share stop. Oh, it's a site. Oh, let's see. My Zoom is frozen. Then when I have a question about the book, I can't see if someone does. You got to tell me if you're doing a chat because I can't read it while I'm teaching. It doesn't show up until I close the window I'm showing. About the book, the same book or in different mediums. Oh yeah, it's the same book whether you do the ebook or in paper or whatnot. Just make sure it has connect with it, and make sure it's the one that I show on mine. I give you things. Thanks. And can you please zoom the picture in those boxes? I'm not sure what boxes you were saying, but it's in the PowerPoint. I'm in the. If you click in course content, everything I showed on the screen is right there. It's the PowerPoint from course content test one materials. Okay. Hopefully that helped. And I'll